Hello and welcome. Today I want to talk a little bit about anger and my own experiences with it. First of all, anger is an incredibly healthy emotion. It's an alarm telling us that a boundary is being violated or that something unjust is happening. It's there to protect us. It's there to guide us. Unfortunately, as in the case with so many emotions, things get cross-wired or get the best of us or blow out the side instead of coming out straight as intended. Um, and emotions can be basically co-opted to help us survive, but also in a way that puts us at the mercy of their service rather than us being the agent utilizing the tool of the emotion. The tool is using us. And I can tell you how very unpleasant this is based on years of working through different levels of emotional mastery with still plenty of work ahead of me, but enough done at this point that I have the contrast of what it is to be at effect versus being at cause. And again, there are no perfect scores on this, but in terms of drastic change and almost an incomparable shift in my experience of life, I'll tell you, this has been a big move, and especially around anger. Not because I have unrealistic expectations, or I'm entitled, or I'm petulant, or I'm needy, or controlling, or many of the things that I have been accused of. But when you're accused of those things inside of certain relational dynamics that tend to be abusive, it's worth questioning whether or not that is so. And that's one of my questions in so many situations to ask, is that so? Um, and I think that that helped me a lot through those stretches is to say, is that so? Is this really unreasonable of me? If this was another person asking this of another person and I'm just the observer, would I think the person making the request was out of line? And more often than not, I would say that I was doing what was responsible, what was compassionate, with that which was in the interests of benefiting all concerned. And I was often punished for it. And so I had a lot of anger around this. Unfortunately, I didn't have time to reflect and process my emotions. And I didn't have, pardon me, the option to seek or attain any kind of meaningful resolution or repair around these infractions. And so, of course, what happened is the anger built up inside of me. And one of the big breakthroughs for me was finding the sadness under it. Because when we're angry in a moment, that's a simple alarm saying, hey, go do a thing. But when we are angry as a default state, when we find in the quiet moments we start ruminating and cussing under our breath, that's a different animal. That's no longer your healthy anger. That's the place where we create suffering by creating a story and holding on to it and maybe even identifying with it. And that's where real suffering arises, and it's also where anger becomes dysfunctional. And I think that being able to have, express, process, and resolve anger is part of being a fully functional human. Some of us go to the other extreme and suppress our anger, and that just causes all kinds of other problems. You absolutely need to be able to have and resolve conflict in life. And so without this, we have a whole nother set of maladies. In my case, I was very able to express it. I felt a responsibility to express it. It wasn't even a personal choice in the role I occupied with the responsibilities I was committed to. I had to fight for that. And so it often came out that I seem to have anger issues. And I think that one thing is that if we're provoked to that, right, that's not really on us. And okay, it's not on us if we feel the anger when provoked. What we do with it is on us. If we have difficulty mitigating the flow and steering the anger in correct directions, then that's also on us. But it could indicate that we're living with conditions that are sort of beyond our ability to manage. This can be a really good indicator of where we need to look to do the work that's going to give us the traction on that. If it is short term, you're just a little hot under the collar after you have an exchange with somebody, that's normal. The body's flushing a lot of chemistry and trying to get back to baseline. If you're still angry hours, days, years later, that's another matter. And that was the matter I was dealing with, was sort of chronic low-grade anger. And I also realized that under that was a sadness. And the sadness was that I couldn't feel safe, respected. I couldn't get my needs met. I couldn't keep peace. I couldn't have dignity. These were things it was costing me so much else in my life, that there was this sadness. And when it was poked, the sore little wound of like all that loss and deprivation, it would flare up just like a wound. If you take a wound and you poke at it, it gets inflamed. And so that was a lot of what was going on. And it was such a chronic state for me that I really started to wonder if it was me. I'm like, what if I were in a condition where I wasn't basically being tormented? What state would I default to? Well, it's hard to answer this because it took me going through a profound connection with my sadness to really be able to gently cry from my body all of this stored up injury. Really, it was just letting that flood out gently that landed me in a different place. Um, but once I'd gotten there and I was soon after able to change my conditions, this is why it's bad science, because I had a very powerful catharsis and then I had a major life shift within, gosh, about 4 months of each other. So it's really hard to say exactly what I would have defaulted to if it had only been the cathartic shift or it had only been the lifestyle shift. Um, I think that being out the other side of that, though, it was very clear to me I do not default to angry. I default to peaceful, amused, grateful, sometimes a little fussy. Sometimes I'm a little irritated at something, or something somebody says kind of twists in my side a little, or, I get frustrated about a thing, or I have fear about something that's upcoming. And I'm not always sunshine, but I default to a very calm, happy, grateful state most of the time. And I've enjoyed living in that state so much for the past several years that it's sort of like, don't look down. I haven't looked back at where I came from, but I realize there's situations in which I'm invited to get riled up, to get resentful, to start ruminating. And I am so stubbornly resisting this at every turn because I don't want that energy running on my lines. It's like, is as if our psyche were a system of pipes, right? And you run this sludge through the pipes all the time, nasty sludge with debris, broken glass, and nails, and like rusty scraps of metal, like running through all the time. And you finally get to purge the lines and like really clean them out and start running fresh water through them. Do you then want to have to go back and run that like debris laden sludge through those lines and dirty that up, knowing you have to purge everything, clean everything, get it back to a healthy state, not pure, but healthy state, like the water that comes from there you could drink again, right? Because we drink from our own well of energy. And I think that one of the big things for me in being able to very effectively just sort of look at the energy that goes beyond normal anger. I'm angry, that's fine, no problem. But that next level comes up knocking on my door, and I'm like, no, nope, nope, we're full up. We don't need any more of that. I just feel like the idea of dirtying up my lines and polluting the waters, so to speak, is so much more costly than anything I could gain by allowing that response to death blossom forward, right? So, one of the things I've realized about anger is that it pollutes us. It really does. And the more we pour that energy into the lines, the more that's what comes out. And when we go to drink from our own well, we're getting the foul back, right? And we're just recirculating this nasty stuff. Whereas if you can break the cycle, clean the lines, and start running good, clear water through there, when when it comes to it and you need to draw from that well, bucket's empty, you reach in, what do you pull out? And I want that to be refreshing, sparkling, clear water that quenches my soul rather than inflames it. So, this is one of the things I'm realizing about how my relationship to anger has changed substantially. And the other side of this is that I need to be able to own it when I do feel angry. I'm still working through my ability to know the timing and the words. I think we all struggle with this. I don't think you have to have any background of trauma or anything else to struggle with that. Um, I'm still working out the finer points, but I'm learning that I need to allow the anger, give it its space, and then send it on its way so that it doesn't sneak around and start overtaking the whole system and polluting that water again. It's so important to have that anger and to work with it, but to not let it work us over. So, all right, this is my wake up thought for the day, considering how it is I want to keep my lines clean and how the way we look at anger and relate to it has a lot to do with how we feel moment to moment and what we have to draw on when it matters. So, here's wishing everybody clearer lines and healthier anger and far less suffering as we go. All right, as we continue along, I wish everybody the best in their progress in this life with whatever you are wrestling with, and I hope that this offers some food for thought and will perhaps help us to find a better way forward ultimately. That's always the underlying mission here, finding a better way forward. All right, well, till the next round. Thank you.